Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling, well, a pretty heavy topic, looking into a state structure that Freedom House scores incredibly low. Just 11 out of 100, clearly marked as not free. We're talking about the structural machinery of repression inside Iran. Now, when you follow the news, you often see these flashes, right? Big street protests. You remember the Green Movement in 2009 or the Bloody November protests in 2019, and of course the recent Woman Life Freedom movement. But what often gets missed, I think, is the underlying system, the self-reinforcing structure that consistently puts down that dissent. So our goal today is to zoom out a bit and really analyze this system of control. Analysts often call it the tripod of authoritarian control.
That framework, the tripod, is really crucial because it highlights that this isn't just random crackdowns, it's engineered. And the foundation, the absolute bedrock, is its top-down nature. It's all directly overseen by the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He holds the reins of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and the judiciary's leadership, and the state media. All roads lead back to him. And the setup, it effectively creates what you could call a parallel security state. The IRGC isn't just, guarding the borders. It operates internally as almost a state within the state. Its job description basically includes suppressing domestic opposition, keeping things ideologically pure. And that direct line to the top, it means one pillar can't really hold another accountable. It's designed that way.
Right, so that dual structure, the sort of official government, and then this parallel IRGC track that's key to its resilience. Okay, so let's unpack this tripod idea then. You're saying 3 core pillars, all reinforcing each other.
Exactly. You've got the physical force, the boots on the ground, then you have the digital side, surveillance, control, isolation, and finally the legal system that, legitimizes the punishment.
Makes sense. Physical, digital, legal.
Precisely. We should probably tackle them one by one. So, pillar 1 is the muscle, right? The physical stuff. That's the IRGC, and importantly, the Basij. Pillar 2 gives them eyes and walls, digital control. Think FATA, the cyber police, and the IRGC's own cyber units. And Pillar 3 provides the, let's call it the legal justification. That's the judiciary, especially those revolutionary courts, formalizing everything.
Okay, Pillar 1, the muscle. When we talk physical enforcement, the IRGC gets a lot of attention as the elite force, but the Basij, that's the Sazmani Basij-e Mostazafen. They seem much more widespread, almost everywhere, right?
Oh, absolutely. The boss's real power is its sheer presence. It's technically under the IRGC, yes, but it acts like this nationwide ideological militia. They're embedded deep, in neighborhoods, schools, universities, even workplaces. When protests erupt, they're often the first ones you see on the streets, enforcing the regime's line, sometimes quite brutally.
And that link, Basij reporting to IRGC, IRGC reporting straight to the supreme leader, that structure seems deliberately designed to prevent any real external oversight, doesn't it?
It really does. Accountability is almost engineered out. I mean, if there's mass violence or arrests carried out by these groups, who internally has the power or independence to truly investigate them? We've seen this playbook repeatedly, crushing the big protest waves 2009, 2019, 2022. Their role is consistent, street violence, sweeping arrests, enforcing ideological rules. Think about the 2024 Hijab and Chastity law. Historically, you had the guidance patrol, the morality police, but this new law seems to rely much more heavily on the Basij and IRGC for enforcement with, much stricter codified penalties now.
Okay, so they have this pervasive physical force with the Basij, but why the massive investment in the digital side then, the second pillar? If you have boots on the ground everywhere, isn't that enough to keep dissent down?
That's a really good question, and it brings us right to pillar 2. Physical force can disperse a crowd, but it can't easily stop people from sharing information or organizing online. The digital cage is vital for controlling that space for dissent. It lets the regime watch, identify, and crucially, isolate activists or cut off communication when needed. And yeah, this is where FATA, the cyber police, and the IRGC's cyber teams come in.
And I suppose this digital crackdown isn't just happening in a vacuum. There's actual legal backing for it, right? Which must give FATA pretty broad powers.
Oh, definitely. The 2009 computer crimes law is foundational here. It's incredibly broad. It doesn't just ban certain websites. It criminalizes really vaguely defined online actions.
Right.
Things like using encryption, which is basic privacy for most people, or even just propagation of freedom-seeking ideas. What does that even mean? It gives them huge latitude.
Wow, so they can find a reason to go after almost anyone online if they want to. But the tool that seems, frankly, the most drastic is this ability to just shut down the internet.
Yeah.
The kill switch.
Yeah, the kill switch. It's not just about censorship. It's really a force multiplier for the physical repression. It directly enables Pillar 1. We saw the devastating impact during the November 2019 fuel protests. The sources are clear. They imposed a near-total internet blackout across the country for about 5 days. That blackout wasn't just inconvenient, it actively hid the scale of the violence. Hundreds were killed during that time, and the world couldn't see it happening. The digital isolation allows Pillar 1 to operate with near impunity.
It's chilling. And it seems technology is constantly being integrated more deeply. You mentioned the 2024 hijab law. Sources point to new surveillance tactics being rolled out with that. Cameras, digital monitoring. I even read about a rumored app, the Nazer app, for citizens to report violations on each other.
Exactly. They seem to be shifting some enforcement away from just human patrols towards this kind of constant digital surveillance. The digital eyes are becoming omnipresent.
Okay, so the digital cage finds people, isolates them. Pillar 1, the BAS, or IRGC, makes the arrest. But they need something more to sort of finalize the process, right, to make it stick.
Right. Once someone is detained, they need a mechanism to process them, formalize the punishment, and often to eliminate the perceived threat permanently, either through long prison sentences or worse.
Which I guess brings us directly to Pillar 3, the judicial system. The part that puts that legal stamp, however flawed, on the state's actions. And we hear a lot about the revolutionary courts in this context.
Yeah, the revolutionary courts are central to this pillar. They are notorious. They handle cases labeled as national security threats, activists, journalists, protesters. Due process is often completely absent. Trials are fast, frequently secret, and the verdicts seem predetermined. These courts are the key link that transforms state violence into something that looks like legal procedure.
And the charges themselves, particularly for the death penalty, seem incredibly broad and open to interpretation. We keep hearing about Muharba waging war against God and Mofsudate fillers spreading corruption on earth.
Those terms, they are deliberately vague. They're essentially weaponized interpretations of religious law used to crush political dissent. They allow the state to equate things like peaceful protest or writing critical articles with capital offenses. It's a way to bypass normal legal standards for something much more arbitrary and politically driven.
And the scale of this.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the numbers earlier off air. They're staggering.
They really are. Independent groups tracked over 900 executions in 2024. That was the highest figure since, I think, 2015. And reports for the first 9 months of 2025 suggest it surged past 1,000. This isn't just occasional use, it's systematic. It shows how efficiently Pillar 3 works to eliminate opposition and, frankly, to spread fear.
And sources consistently point out that this isn't applied evenly either. Ethnic and religious minorities, particularly from Baluch and Kurdish communities, seem to bear the brunt, both in arrest, during protests, and then facing these severe charges and executions.
Absolutely. It highlights that this judicial pillar isn't about justice in any recognizable sense. It's a tool for control, for terror, and for reinforcing the regime's power, especially against groups perceived as challenging its authority.
Okay, so we have the three pieces laid out. IRGC Basij for the physical force, the cyber units for digital control and isolation, and the revolutionary courts for the legal finality. It feels like a very complete system.
Yeah.
How does it all work together in practice? Can you walk us through maybe a typical scenario showing how these pillars connect in that closed circuit you mentioned?
Sure, let's try to trace the path of someone who gets caught in this system. It's a depressingly consistent cycle. Okay, step 1. Someone posts something critical online. Maybe shares a video of police brutality, or tries to organize a small local gathering using social media. That's the digital act. Step 2. FATA, or an IRGC cyber unit, spots it. Using the powers granted by that computer crimes law, they identify and start tracking the person. That's the digital intelligence leading to targeting.
Okay, so they're flagged.
Right. Step 3. The Basij, or maybe IRGC plainclothes officers, show up and make the arrest. Often, this is followed by detention incommunicado and frequently torture or coercion to get a confession. That's the physical enforcement and the forced evidence gathering.
And then that confession, likely coerced, feeds back into the system.
Exactly. That brings us to step 4. The case goes to a revolutionary court. Armed with the confession, however obtained, the court quickly convicts them on those vague charges, Muharba, acting against national security. A long prison sentence, or increasingly the death penalty, follows. That's the judicial legalization phase. It closes the loop, it provides cover for the actions of the security forces, and ensures there's rarely any real consequence for them.
So the pattern seems clear. Peaceful dissent triggers a military-style response, often under cover of a digital blackout, leading to mass arrests, then torture and unfair trials, and potentially execution. It's a cycle designed for impunity.
Precisely. It's a closed circuit.
What strikes me from this analysis is how interconnected it all is. You can't really tackle, say, the Basij's violence on the streets without also addressing the digital surveillance that enables it and the courts that legitimize it afterwards.
Yeah.
This vertical alignment, physical, digital, judicial, all reporting up to the supreme leader, seems to be the core of its resilience. Each part protects the others.
That's a very important takeaway. And it leads to a really difficult question, one perhaps for you, the listener, to think about. The UN's own fact-finding mission looked into the crackdown during the 2022-23 Women Life Freedom protests and concluded that the abuses likely amounted to crimes against humanity. So given how deeply embedded this three-pillar system is, this tightly controlled combination of military force, digital lockdown, and judicial rubber stamping, all under one authority, what kind of fundamental institutional change, something perhaps beyond even the incredible bravery we see in street protests, would actually be needed to dismantle or significantly constrain this apparatus of repression?